So here we are in Portsmouth Revisited II, the exhibition at Portsmouth Museum and Art Gallery that's got so many different paintings, prints and photographs in that will hopefully give you lots of ideas for your pieces of writing. I'm going to walk you through a few of them just to show you some of the things on offer, and I'm going to start with one of the city's famous independent fishermen. This is Moses, painted by Karl Rudziak, one of the artists currently working in the city, and I just think this is an amazing painting. It's big, it's bigger than life size, and Moses is looking straight out at us, and I want to start a conversation with him. I want to know what he's thinking, where he's been, where he's going, and most of all, I want to know where he got this fantastic mug that kind of doesn't seem to go with his roughy-tufty appearance and that big working hand. Who gave it to him? Did he buy it? What's he drinking out of it? Is it a cup of tea? Is it something a little bit stronger? Lots of stories that I think this painting could tell. And then we've got paintings that show places as well as people. So one of the artists that worked in the city for many years was a gentleman called Edward King, who spent a long time in St James's Hospital, and he painted the city in the Second World War when lots of the buildings had been damaged by the German bombs. And you've got these amazing street scenes, very atmospheric. They seem very quiet even though they were painted in the Second World War. And as you look really carefully, you see that all of them have people and cars in them. We've just got a lady standing against one of the damaged buildings there, and near to her is another gentleman whose white collar tells me that this is a sailor. And I want to know, do these people know each other? Are they going to start a conversation? Are they going to go off on an adventure together? What's happening in this painting? What would happen if you were magically transported inside it? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you smell? What would happen next? We've got some more modern representations of buildings in the city. I really like the colours in this one and the way the buildings, the cathedral has been broken down into different coloured squares, and I think that could maybe give you some ideas for writing broken down into short, sharp chunks of words. And we've got some buildings that aren't here anymore, but that you might hear people talking about. So this is an amazing, really lively piece that's about the Tricorn, a building that was built in the 1960s and was one of those Marmite buildings. People either loved it or hated it. It was a shopping centre with a car park, and it was knocked down in 2004, and there were lots of protests. Some people wanted to save it, some people didn't want to save it. And you've got this crowd of people, really trendy people, probably going out on a Saturday to go shopping. Who are they? What are they going to do? What would you be doing if you were one of them? What conversations would you hear? And who's this figure? Kind of really cool guy leaning against the wall, looking off to the side. What's he doing? Is it going to be something good? Is it going to be something a little bit dodgy? I really would love to hear your ideas. We've got some of the more sort of retro or vintagey type images, including tower blocks, and some images that show you the layouts of some of the streets maybe, or we've got the scaffolding as well. What would it be like being on some of the scaffolding at the top of the building here? How would you feel if you were there? What would you see? What would happen if you dropped a piece of paper? Where would it go? Who would pick it up? Oh, all sorts of things. There's so many things that you could write about. And of course, one of the most iconic, famous buildings in the city is the Spinnaker Tower. And we've got quite a few different images of the Spinnaker Tower, including one that I love. It's a black and white print where the tower has become a person, John Spinnaker, and he's going off for a walk. It reminds me a little bit of the Iron Man, and I'm thinking of what adventures could the Spinnaker Tower have. There's tiny, tiny little boats beneath his feet. How would you feel if you were in one of those boats and you looked up and the Spinnaker Tower's about to tread on you? Can you get out of the way in time? I want to know about your adventure. We've got slightly more romantic images of the city. This is a view from the top of Southsea Castle over the lighthouse, and I love that we've got this slightly awkward looking young girl looking down at her feet, and a young man with his back to her, and he looks like perhaps he's reading something, but I don't know what it is, and I'm kind of nosy and I really want to know. Is it a letter that the young girl has written to him? Is she so shy that her poodle is just going to take over and say, for goodness sake, come on, let's start a conversation? I want to know all about it. Lots and lots of possibilities. I really like the fact that some of the paintings you can see don't give as many details, so that leaves lots of scope for your imagination. I love this picture of a figure wearing a hoodie down at the point in Portsmouth, and I can't see who it is because I'm looking from behind. I don't know if it's a male or female, older or younger. I don't know anything about this person, but I want to know why they're there, what they're doing, what's going to happen next. I'm really, really curious about what I would see if this figure turned round. Perhaps it's not actually a person at all. It might be something more mysterious. We've got a whole series of prints, they're so interesting. We've got the same background, but on top of them, almost done like a piece of graffiti or some sort of graphic novel. We've got a whole series of some of the most famous real life characters or characters from books and from fiction who have got links with Portsmouth. And one of the most well known, of course, you can see in the silhouette with the hat and the curved pipe, is Sherlock Holmes, and they're called the Ghosts of Portsmouth. So I think these are asking us to think about some of those prickly feelings where the hairs on the back of your neck stand up as you start to think about all the people who might have walked down the same street as you hundreds of years ago, and all the things that might have happened, the people that you might have encountered. Everyone from Charles Dickens to Lord Nelson and lots of different people. And then more recognisable things that we might all do down on the seafront on a stormy day when you're leaning forward and battling into the wind. We've got a family going out for the day and the weather's perhaps not on their side, but I bet those kids are having a fantastic time getting a bit wet. And I love this photograph of empty deck chairs, and I want to know who's just got up out of them so that the seats are billowing in the strong wind that must be blowing, so they're almost falling over. And Glitter Bay, that sounds quite magical and exciting. What happens in Glitter Bay? We've got a whole series of paintings showing Pompey fans watching a match at Fratton Park, and if any of you like your football and support Pompey, maybe you could imagine yourself as one of the characters in these paintings. And is the team doing well? Is it doing badly? Have they just scored a goal? Everyone's sitting down, so I don't think anyone's scored just at this moment. But who have you gone there with? What are you talking about? What are you going to do after the match? Maybe something happens and you are actually playing in the football match yourself. I don't know. We've even got a couple of deck chairs, specially designed, really bright and colourful. One with a fairly scary looking shark on there, and another one with what looks like a huge big octopus wrapping its tentacles around Henry VIII's ship, the Mary Rose. Maybe you're one of the sailors on the Mary Rose, and the reason the ship sank is it was a giant octopus, and history's kind of forgotten about this. And another image with lots of different characters from Portsmouth in the present day. Some of them who are a bit infamous for fairly naughty goings on. Lots of people that you could talk about there. And then another image of Guildhall Square that I've got a bit of a soft spot for, because you can see some well-known buildings. It's a very well-known part of Portsmouth, but you've got people of all different ages. You've got really young people, curiously with no clothes on. I'm not sure whether they're just a bit hot or if there's any other reason for that. You've got and people in their sort of teenage years, the same as the people that we're asking to write about our paintings here. But then you've got some older people who maybe have lots of memories. They've seen and done lots of things, or maybe these are the same people shown at different stages in their lives. What's made that young girl do a cartwheel? Is she the same girl that we can see here sitting on the steps? And is this her in her younger years? Is this young boy hoisting a flag up onto the top of the white flagpole? What flag is it, and why is it being raised up there? And then we've got the final painting that you see before you leave the exhibition is a lady who clearly has a lot of attitude. I think I'd quite enjoy a conversation with this lady, but it might be something where I'd have to take a deep breath and steel myself, because I think if she didn't like me or didn't like what I was talking about, she'd tell me so, and I think she'd be very, very direct. And I hope that you'll be very direct and very plain speaking or plain writing. And I'm really, really looking forward to reading your poems, stories, plays, and seeing what you think would happen if you could write about the city's paintings.